the second panel to come up. This will be Mrs. Sharon Kobrinsky, Michelle Slater, Reverend Michelle Slater, and Dr. Farouk Mika. So again, they have the question, what is the gift that your tradition is bringing to help the world heal and flourish? So we'll start with my dear friend, Sharon Kobrinsky. Mrs. Kobrinsky has been a social worker for 35 years, currently offering family counseling through her private practice. She serves as the ceremonial leader for the Victoria Society of Humanistic Judaism, and since 2014, she's been my colleague as the Jewish chaplain at UVic. Please welcome Sharon.
Shalom. And I would also say salam. It is an honor to participate in this Healing the World event at UVic. For me, it is a mitzvah to be here. And I want to tell you what the word mitzvah means. For Jewish people, a mitzvah, or the plural is mitzvot, may refer to the collection of 613 commandments in the Torah, which includes some of the teachings I will share. But it has another meaning. It's also used to describe a worthy deed and an act of kindness. And I have to say that as the Jewish chaplain at UVic and as the community leader, participating in a worthy undertaking is indeed a mitzvah. It's one of my favorite words, and I hope you'll use it after today. I also want to bring greetings and good wishes from the Jewish community of Victoria and Vancouver Island. We are a diverse group of individuals and families who identify with the history, culture, and future of the Jewish people, and who do represent the full spectrum of the Jewish experience, from the religious to the secular. And we do stand for the ethical values and principles of justice and hope and peace throughout the world. I have a little story to tell you about the Jewish community in Victoria. I was sharing it with one of my colleagues before we got started today. In 2014, the synagogue at the corner of Blanchard and Pandora, called Temple Emmanuel. Some of you know it, Temple Emmanuel. So it celebrated its 150th anniversary. It was built in 1864, at least the cornerstone was laid. But the history of the synagogue is very interesting because at that time, you know, Canada wasn't really a country yet, BC wasn't a province yet, but the British government, who controlled things, they gave land to Christian churches to build their churches. They did not give land to the Jewish people. But the land came from the Christian community, who raised the money and donated the land at the corner of Blanchard and Pandora. So the multi-faith experience has a long history, and in 2014 there was a parade that went down Pandora that emulated that parade in 1864 from all the faith communities and the Masons, and the cornerstone was laid by the Masons. So when you pass by that synagogue, know that it has a history of a multi-faith experience. Through our history of 5,777 years, did you know that? That's how old Jewish people say we go back. And that's another story, but I won't share that one today. But, you know, the idea of justice has really been at the cornerstone of the Jewish faith. We know that without justice, there is no peace. The first century Talmudic sages taught that the world rests on three foundations, and these are ones we've heard earlier today: on justice, on truth, and on peace. And by indoctrinating the young of every generation with these ethical values and translating these words into concrete practices, the teachers of Israel really succeeded in awakening the personal and social conscience of the Jewish people. And so we hear in the Jewish world, you know, love thy neighbor as thyself. Does that sound familiar? In Hebrew we say Kol Israel Chaverim, which would be translated as all Israel is my brother. We read about hate not thy brother and love the stranger, and these are all things that you've heard about before. But we also talk about tikkun olam, and tikkun olam means healing the world. So, you know, that when I heard about the theme for today, really Tikkun Olam is something that is really at the cornerstone of Judaism, I would say. And the concept of justice and righteousness and freedom, they really come together in a vision of an ideal world that was articulated by the prophets so many, many years ago. And this is expressed in the idea that each of us needs to contribute to making the world a better place. From a Jewish perspective, if we continue Tikkun Olam, then peace will come. And so today really is special in that regard. I was a bit hesitant when I was asked to take on the role of being Jewish chaplain almost 4 years ago. I didn't really know what I would have to contribute. But I knew that when I grew up in Alberta, in a small town, where my sisters and I were chased down the street telling us that we killed Jesus, you know, I knew that there was a different place that I had to be in my life. My mother of blessed memory, she would have been 99 yesterday if she'd lived. My mother loved all people. My mother's home was always open to anybody from every walk of life. And I think that's how my sisters and I grew up, learning that we really needed to share our families and our lives as much as we could. You know, in 2016, we saw the support of Canadians and refugees fleeing from the ravages of Syria and Iraq. I don't know if you know that the synagogue, along with other members of the Jewish community, raised that $60,000 to bring a Syrian family, and they're now here. And we feel very happy about that. Judaism teaches that each of us has a moral obligation to teach tolerance, respect, and understanding, and to stand for peace. And it's so important. Eleanor Roosevelt, late First Lady of the United States, said, "It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it." I take her words further and I say, it isn't enough to talk about healing the world. We must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in healing the world. We must work at it through our dialogue, through our new friendships, through our tolerance of each other's differences, and through standing firm against all forms of bigotry and injustice. In the past week, we saw people from all faiths and cultural backgrounds come together following that terrible tragedy in Quebec, when 5 Muslim men were killed while praying. This event struck at the heart of all Jewish people who are still continuing to experience acts of anti-Semitism throughout the world. It was just last week that a synagogue was defaced in Montreal. And so I say to you, as a member of the Jewish community, we stand firm with our Muslim brothers and sisters as they struggle to heal from this barbaric act. We say never again and stand firm against all acts of bigotry and injustice whenever they take place in the world. We stand firm with Tikkun Olam. I want to thank the organizing committee for their wonderful work, and especially Elaine and all members from Multi-Faith Services, or from the Victoria Multi-Faith Organization, in making this important day possible, and for the opportunity to be part of Tikkun Olam, of healing the world and working towards justice and peace. And I would like to conclude with a blessing for peace from a book of blessings by Marcia Falk. Eternal wellspring of peace, may we be drenched with the longing for peace, that we may give ourselves over as the earth to the rain, to the dew, until peace overflows our lives as living waters overflow the seas. Thank you.